Welcome to the Self-Actualize podcast. I'm your host, Anmol, and today we're bringing you a very special episode recorded live at the Northwestern University Garage, located right here in San Francisco. We partnered with a powerhouse lineup of executive coaches from Northwestern University and hosted a workshop focused on building resilient leadership and navigating tough transitions. I had the pleasure of introducing the coaches and hosting the panel discussion. So let's jump right in and hear from these amazing coaches.
Welcome everyone, welcome to our coaching and networking event. It's only leadership, navigating transitions. I am delighted to see you. In fact, I don't know if you know how glad I am that you're all here. My name is Jon Shuster. I am an executive coach. I graduated from Kellogg once upon a time, I would say, and I also founded the Kellogg Coaches Collective, otherwise known as KCC. We are a growing community of professional coaches and others. Kellogg trained, Kellogg affiliated. We are happy to be here with you, our fellow Northwestern alums. So we'll do another Go Cats. Hey. So, we are going to begin shortly our panel, and that will go about an hour or so. And then after that, we'll have about an hour and 15 into the coaching part. And at that time, we'll share more about how that's going to flow. You'll see some things in each of you got assignments that we'll share then more there. At that time, as we begin to go through coaching, there will be, of course, that general networking and also a bit afterwards. So food, drinks, assorted other fun things to do on a Friday. So welcome once again. Enjoy, please, as you're doing. I can see already connecting. And we hope that this event offers you support and a boost as you take the next step on your journeys. Just before we start, I'd like to have one more introduction. So I wanted you to meet Amit Bakshi. He is the co-founder of SelfActualize.ai. They are our partner for this event, and he himself is also a member of the KCC. Amit.
My name is Amit. I'm the founder of SelfActualize.ai, and I'm thrilled to be back here at the garage, partnering with the KCC. It's like truly an honor to be back here. We actually operated out of here earlier in our journey. So I'm a huge believer in coaching. I personally and professionally benefited so much from coaching. The only problem with coaching is that it's very exclusive, right? Very, very few people ever experience the magic of coaching. In fact, 99% of the workforce never gets executive coaching, right? So that's the problem we're trying to solve. We're partnering with world-class coaches to create AI coaching experiences for the enterprise. So the employees can get coached by the real coach and their AI that's available 24/7. So thrilled to be here. We have some demos set up, so we'd love for you to stop by and we can tell you more. The last thing I wanted to just give a shout out to Sneha, who is an incoming Kellogg class of 27. I think she's outside, but she's the one that put this whole thing together. So just wanted to give her a huge shout out. And some of some of the Kellogg alums in the room might relate to this. From time to time, working in tech, working in entrepreneurship, I wonder was the Kellogg MBA worthwhile, right? But if I just look around this room, this is incredible, right? To have this community all here together and supporting each other like this. So I think Sneha made the right choice, deciding to join Kellogg. I'm going to introduce Anmol, my co-founder and the chief revenue officer. He's going to moderate the panel.
All right, thanks, Amit. Hey, welcome everybody. So happy to see you here. So like Amit says, my name is Anmol. I'm his co-founder and chief revenue officer of SelfActualize.ai. Amit and I have known each other for a long time, close to 3 decades. And both of us, we've always been interested in self-development and self-improvement. So for as long as I've known Amit, we've always read the books and listened to the podcasts and attended the lectures and all that stuff. But we never really knew if this was helping us. We thought it was, but it was kind of difficult to measure if it was really moving the needle. What really moved the needle for us was executive coaching. Right, so Amit connected with an executive coach 6-7 years ago, got great value from her, recommended her to me. I started working with her, and since then we both used a variety of coaches, and that's really been the gap filler for us. That's really taken us to the next level. So I'm a big proponent of coaching, and that's why we created SelfActualize, to democratize coaching and bring it to anyone who desires it. Okay? But today is not about SelfActualize. Today is all about you guys. It's connecting with ambitious people like yourselves that are looking to level up and connect you to world-class elite coaches like the folks here, and really celebrate the importance of executive coaching for everybody. Okay, so that's why we're here today. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce our phenomenal coaches. So I will start with Jon Shuster. Hey John, how are you?
I'm fine. Again, how are you?
Good. All right, let's get into it. So Jon Shuster is the founder and principal of the Carpenter Group. So it's a leadership coaching and organizational consultancy. He's also ICF certified, just like Amit, and has 25 years experience helping clients accelerate their leadership effectiveness and drive team and organizational performance. Jon advises leaders and their teams from Fortune 500 companies to small to mid-cap companies across many different industries, including tech, healthcare, biotech, just to name a few, as well as research universities and nonprofits. Prior to being a coach, he's also had leadership roles at globally known companies, brands you may be aware of like Levi Strauss and Accenture. Yeah. So Jon, it's
All right.
a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
All right, now I'll move on to Sharon.
Hello.
Sharon, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Sharon Bakcht is the founder and chief badass of being a badass. As an executive coach, corporate workshop guide, and speaker, Sharon guides leaders and organizations to create meaningful impact. Among Sharon's favorite topics are empowering leaders to strengthen communication, become more strategic, self-healthy boundaries, and embrace authentic leadership. Okay? But prior to founding Being a Badass, Sharon led the America's Innovation Group at WD-40 Company, and she also launched San Diego's first social enterprise accelerator and built global programs at Dow Corning with triple bottom line impact. She lives in San Diego with her husband, Ben, also a Kellogg alum, right? And their Michigan son. And on any day, she can be found enjoying donuts and breaking into dance parties. It's gonna happen out there.
What coaching is going to be a one-on-one session? We're just going to dance.
All right, thank you. Right, then we have Jacquie. Hi, Jacquie. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Nice to meet you. All right, so we have Jacquie Duncan. She is the founder of Integral Coaching. So this is a full-service leadership development firm whose mission is to empower people and teams to achieve their highest levels of performance by exceeding their goals while demonstrating the pinnacle of their leadership competencies. Okay, Jackie's got more than 20 years experience driving strategic growth at global B2C and B2B markets. She's advised Fortune 500 leadership teams, also startup CEOs and their executive teams across a variety of industries, including tech, media, healthcare, financial services, just to name a few. Okay, her specialty is helping teams transition through the various stages of company growth and scale while skillfully building collaborative, empowered, and high-performing teams. Thanks, Jacquie. All right. So our next coach is Yvena.
Oh, we talked about this.
Yvena.
Yvena.
Yvena. At least I didn't pronounce the Y. So Yvena Atkins is a coach, strategist, and thought leader with deep expertise in transformation and innovation-led technologies. She's a director at Accenture's Talent and Organization Practice. She shapes cutting-edge insights on the workforce of the future, ensuring that business and people thrive in an ever-evolving world. As an executive coach, her personal mission is to empower ambitious women to level up and become their favorite versions of themselves.
That's right.
Nice. She's relocating from Chicago to...
From St. Louis back to Chicago.
Relocating to Chicago from St. Louis.
Yes.
Okay, this summer with her husband, her toddler,
Yes.
and 2 cats.
And a puppy.
And a puppy. How old is the toddler?
He is 4. And you know, our life is a sitcom. So.
Yeah.
I see him on the screen.
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you. All right, and then we have Carla Vaccarezza Bass.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I'll start warming up in a bit. All right, so Carla is a career and executive coach with also 20 years of experience, partnering with countless professionals, including students, alumni, physicians transitioning to industry, and mid-career executives through her tenure at several top universities, including Stanford University, UC Berkeley, and
Very own Kellogg.
Northwestern. As well as her private clients. She is dedicated to helping clients get unstuck and inspiring them to take a bias to action. Carla is currently the Associate Director of Career Services for the Executive MBA students at Kellogg School of Management, where she spent the last decade coaching, designing career education programs, and managing teaching initiatives. Thank you. Okay, and then also we have Miroo Kim. Miroo, how are you?
My name is easy.
All right, so Miroo is the founder and CEO of People Plus Culture. She's dedicated to fostering a systemic well-being in startups and tech companies. In her 20 years at tech companies such as Google, Meta, Microsoft, she discovered the importance of the human mind in making wonderful technology products and services. This led her to feel deeply interested in how to take care of the human mind at workplaces. And she's also got something coming up in May 2025. What's coming up in May?
My book, The Placeholder.
The Placeholder. It's called The Place to Go to Create Your Noble Work. Right? So the book's going to benefit those who want to create their own meaningful path, not just finding the next job. And having built 10 to 15 years career, that's certainly good. Miroo, nice to meet you. All right, sounds great. So that's our wonderful coaches. So why don't we get into the first question, okay? So, question number one. Sorry, let me go back here. So today is all about transition. And transition goes hand in hand with being resilient or resiliency. So the first question is, what does it mean to be resilient? And are there any models or constructs illustrating that idea for you or your clients? Okay, so that's question number one. So why don't we start with you, Jon?
Okay, sure. Sure. Is this on? Okay. All right. First of all, I would say resilience obviously is a big topic now, right, for everything that's been going on. But I would also call out that it's just not now, but even past studies. There's a 2017 study by Zenger Miller that suggests that those leaders who were seen as most resilient also were seen as the most effective too. So it's just kind of underscoring what a big topic it is. There are two different definitions, I think, to answer that I would say that I like. One is from Harvard Business School. Resilience is the capacity to not only endure great challenges, but get stronger in the midst of them. And the piece about that to me that's most important is the adaptability, right? Being able to kind of bounce back. And in that kind of definition, there's a part about ourselves, but also about being able to lead or to continue to kind of function even when things aren't going well. And so it speaks to the power of what we can do for ourselves and also for those around us. The other definition comes from the APA. And they speak about the idea of flexibility. So of resilience as being flexible in terms of mental, emotional, and behavioral. And so to me, as I break that down, and you'll stop me after 3 minutes here, the mental flexibility to me is about, can we make sure that we're not caught up in ideas or self-reflecting beliefs that keep us down or keep us focused on the wrong thing. So flexibility to me kind of denotes being able to kind of choose what's the right thing for us. And so, for instance, a common, one kind of a model. There's a monk named Shinzen Young who offers a formula, if you've heard of it. Suffering, S, equals the combination of P, pain, units of pain, the bad thing happens, times R, in resistance. Those are the things that we say, gee, how come I'm losing my job? That's not fair, or it's not really right that. So it's, as one example, can we, he would say, minimize the R, and that's a way of, again, kind of keeping us flexible to be able to kind of respond. The other part's about, that's a cognitive that's one example. The other thing about mental flexibility and emotional is being able to keep ourselves regulated, right? So that's one other thing. To be resilient is about ensuring that we've kept ourselves filled, sleep, eating, social kind of connection. So resilience can be a part of it. It's about ensuring that we're doing the things we need to do for ourselves so that we can then kind of choose. And then the last thing that I'll say briefly is the behavioral flexibility. My colleague Jacquie will speak about learning and everything. I would also say that our bodies, using our full heart, hands, and head, our bodies offer us a source of wisdom to be able to take the right action and to sometimes help us do the right thing, even when our heads are saying don't, but our bodies are saying no, we actually really need to. So all those things, I think, to me, are part of what the word resilience has in mind.
Great. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for that in-depth answer. So, same question. Same question. What does it mean to be resilient? And what are the models or constructs? And we'll go to our chief badass, Sharon.
Thank you. Hear me?
How about now? Is that better? Okay. Great. Thank you for all that feedback. I appreciate that. So what comes to mind for me when I think about resilience is when option A is not available, let's kick the shit out of option B. I'm going to say a few bad words. That's not the last bad word you'll hear from me.
Never heard those.
Cover your ears if you're sensitive. There's more to come. So that's to me what that speaks to is that resilience is not fixed. It is something that we can build. It's like a muscle that we can grow. And there are things that we can do with intention and repetition to actually create more resilience within ourselves and within the teams that we lead.
Battery up, maybe? Can I borrow? Thank you.
How's that? No?
No.
Hello? A little bit?
Yeah.
I just need to be a little louder. Okay. All right. So I want you to think about resilience like a muscle that you can build. And one thing that I think is extra cool is that if you're familiar with BDNF, there's been research recently around a protein that actually lives inside your body. And there are things that you can do to increase that protein, and that is correlated with increasing your resilience, with actually strengthening your mental fortitude and the amount of, should we close that door, do you think? So I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Joe Risser, who is a researcher at UCSD, and he's actually working to better understand how this protein in our body works in his lab. And his patients are people who have been suffering with really painful disease for a long time. And the exercises that they do to increase the BDNF actually help them feel less pain, have less anxiety, deal better with difficult situations. They help them have the capability to learn new things and to have a better outlook for their disease. So to me, this is really fascinating because when we think about resilience, we may think this is like a kind of a soft skill, but actually there is hard scientific evidence associated with it. One more thing I'll share with you is related to a construct that I like to use. And this construct is the 3 C's. So when you think about how to address resilience in your life, how to navigate difficult moments, think about 3 things: control, commitment, and challenge. So control is about not being a martyr, not being a victim, but thinking about what are the things that I can control about my situation and letting go of the things that I cannot. Next is commitment. So there's evidence that also shows that when we commit to something, if you have a goal that you're working towards, a project that you're working towards, staying engaged and focused and having purpose actually increases your resilience and your capability to perform better going forward. And the last one, challenge, is about the way that we see challenges. So when you view a challenge as something that's negative and hard and you kind of stay in that woeful state, that's not going to help you be more resilient. But when you look at it as an opportunity to learn and to grow, that's going to increase your resilience going forward. And the last thing that I'll share with you is I've been playing with a bit of an acronym lately. It's called AFGO, and it's another fucking growth opportunity. So let's try that out a little bit and see how that lands with you. So I'll say a thing, and then you say
AFGO.
AFGO, right? So you got laid off in the last round of layoffs at your company.
AFGO.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to learn and grow, right? So the startup that you started didn't make it big like you hoped it would.
AFGO.
So you missed your flight this morning and took the next one. True story. Exactly. Thank you for participating. And now, back to you.
Thank you, Sharon. I love the idea that resilience is a muscle. It can be built, right? So many of these skills are not fixed. They're skills that can be improved. And coaching can always help. All right. And so, Jackie, to you, same question. What does it mean to be resilient for you?
So I'm going to build off of what my last two colleagues said, because this ability to build a muscle is tied to something called growth mindset. How many people have heard that term, growth mindset? Right, yes. So there's a book, Carol Dweck, I think you pronounce her last name, and don't try to remember all of the names we're tossing around. I think we're going to hand out a resource list at the end of this. But growth mindset is this concept that our abilities, our intelligence, they are not fixed. They can all be grown like muscles over time. And what we need is both resilience to do it and something called grit. And you guys might have also read a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. So if you combine a passion for some purpose that you have, a commitment to pursuing it over a long period of time, the ability to overcome setbacks, which is this idea of resilience, and you apply a learning mindset to it, then you achieve whatever it is you set out to achieve. So I'll just be the most succinct of all of us. I do like this one saying, which is to say that successful people don't just endure a challenge or a trauma, they actually engage with it. So.
Thank you, Jackie. All right. So now that we've defined resilience, why don't we move on to question number 2, which is what are the challenges you've observed for leaders or individuals who are navigating a transition that tests their resilience? And what's a takeaway that you can share about that experience with that leader, or maybe your own experience? Okay, so why don't we go to Miroo? Question to you.
Sure. I want to ask you a question first. Raise your hand if you knew that you had to change, but you're resisting it. Yeah, a lot of us have experiences. So I want to tell you a quick story to answer this question. So we all know Ulysses S. Grant, the president, and then also the general who led the war, right, in the Civil War. And he, I don't know is there a history buff here who knows everything about Ulysses Grant? Okay, so keep me honest. But for writing my book, I actually had to look into his life too. And there was 7 years of his life before he actually participated in the Civil War from 1854 to 1861. He actually wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a leader in the army. So what did he do? He actually left the army. The historian says he got kind of fired because he was drinking too much. That's one theory, but I'm not going to argue with that. But he left the army, and then he actually tried everything, from selling firewood to running plantation farm to selling leather goods, everything, every business that you can imagine, to reinvent himself. So think about it. He was already kind of a hero in the Mexican War. So he proved himself as a soldier and a leader in the army. And then he left that career behind and had to go into this new enterprise. No one knows him by a business that he ran. And after all, he failed in everything. And by end of the 7th year, actually, he went back to the army. And then that's when he participated in the Civil War. And he led the war to victory too. So if you think about it, how hard would it have been for him, right? To give up that career at the time, thinking that I need to do something completely different. So the point here to think about when it's challenging to actually, in the transition to change, the point to think about is sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy, as a lot of you might know, that the best way to explain in this context is that you do so much to build up the career up to the point, and then or you build a business up to a certain point, you are successful, and you knew that you have to change. Either your business, you have to pivot, or you have to do something different. You are successful as a tech entrepreneur or a banker or a teacher, for that matter, but you are hating it every day at one point, and you know that you have to change, and you are resisting it. And it's because sunk cost fallacy too. And we all know that through the economics, his theories and stories, that actually that holds us back, and it's actually not really the right thing to do. So we have to kind of let go of it and then start new. So when you resist in that transition time, actually remember that this might be the sunk cost fallacy that I'm falling in, and then I need to think about it. So that's one thing kind of as a notion to want to recommend. And the other thing is about, it's also kind of as part of as I was writing the book, this came up a lot. And the other thing is about what I notice in my clients a lot too, that when they're in transition, they overanalyze. And probably a lot of you can also relate to this too. And one of the things that I really recommend my clients for that is that do not evaluate when you innovate. So if you keep evaluating while you're trying something new, then you're going to keep going back to what you were doing before. So then you might ask, oh, but I need to actually check whether I'm doing the right thing or not. Definitely, you need that too. But instead of trying to overanalyze and evaluate how you're doing, probably it's better to get the input from other people around you, but not the same people that you are going back to. You might need to build that kind of support system again with the new people that you actually want to become. So, and then get the input from them, feedback from them, but do not evaluate while you're innovating. So that's another thing that I want to kind of share to overcome the challenges in transition.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's I love that story on Grant. Like, it's amazing how much grit this guy had. Because in the Civil War, Lincoln went through general after general after general. He had to fire them all, and none of them worked. Finally, he found Grant. And the difference with him, he just went in there. He would lose a battle, attack the next day, lose a battle, attack the next day. And then Lincoln said, I like this Grant. Fights. All right, so we have same question to you, Yvena.
Yvena. So it's Yvena, and if you remember Eve, you will never forget it. Thank you. No worries, no worries. Yeah, an observation I've had of leaders who struggle with transition, similar to what Sharon mentioned, is that they focus a lot on things that they can't control. And so I'm navigating transition right now with, moving my family to Chicago. My husband has a new job. I'm trying to put my 3-year-old in, a school, living in the city of Chicago, right? There's a lot. So some of the things that I am thinking through, right, as I'm navigating this change is self-trust. I am confident in my abilities to survive all of my bad days because I am here with you guys. And so self-trust is really important, right? The ability to define success on your own terms, right? Like, what are your core values? What do you actually want to do? So when things get tough, you can point to that and have that be a guide for you. So, when I'm thinking through what local accounts in Chicago, right, do I want to work on? And I will go to my core values, and I will go through my goals for myself as I make the decision on, what leaders to engage, right? Because I want to make sure that it's a fit there. And the last thing I'll say is it's around emotional regulation. And Jackie, you mentioned a little bit about this, but how do we move through friction, right? How do we sit with these tough emotions that will come up? Because as you level up, you will get, even harder challenges. And so how do you, sit with those emotions, move through those emotions, and don't avoid them because they're still there. So those are just some takeaways, things that I'm actively applying in my life as well, and that I, advise my clients on.
May I build on that?
Absolutely.
One little sentence. A lot of people think grit and resilience and they think toughness. Be tough, Navy SEAL tough. And actually, I would recommend be vulnerable, be soft. If you ask for support, if you ask for help, that's what will give you the courage and the grit and the resilience to persevere. You need the support, and it's vulnerability that shows the way and shines the light. It is not the toughness.
Vulnerability is another form of toughness, or another form of grit.
Biggest form of courage.
Great. Thank you, Jackie and Eva.
There you go.
All right, so question number 2, the challenges you've observed. So Carla, over to you.
Yeah, here.
Thank you. So I'm going to just build off of what my fellow panelists have already shared, but maybe 2 newer concepts we haven't talked about yet. I think most of us in the room are also familiar with the term imposter syndrome, seeing some heads being shaken. So I, as you shared, work very closely with our executive MBAs at Kellogg, as well as I see this with our my private clients, just this feeling of self-doubt. Even when one's not in transition, we see this all the time. I guess it is a transition when our students start their new program. You know, they show up their first day looking around the room. Oh my goodness, what have I done? You know, all of these amazing people, and who am I, right? And letting those self-doubts start to soak in, you know, definitely can affect people as they are trying to make transitions, looking for new roles. And so trying to get at whatever that root cause fear is, a lot of deep reflection, you know, working with a coach can help uncover that. You know, that can really be a roadblock for someone to continue making their progress to whatever their goals are. Again, the reflection work. We have an amazing alum that most of us in the room might know, Virginia Jenny Clark. I don't know her name. So she is a Kellogg alum. She spent many years at Google. She has a wonderful newsletter, Fifth Dimensional Leadership. And so something to just keep on your radar, because she often will talk about this topic in depth, especially for any of the female executives in the room. So something to keep in mind. The other area that we kind of touched upon, but not quite yet, is energy management, taking care of oneself, boundaries. These are also roadblocks that come up a lot with transition, but just in general. I mean, I think everyone here has survived COVID, right? So hopefully you know how to take care of yourself, but this can be something that holds leaders back. And so however you can take care of yourself, you know, whether you have control of your calendar, building in blocks, just manage what, you know, your day-to-day looks like as much as possible. I think a lot of us on this panel, we're going to also introduce the design thinking leaders out of Stanford, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, and they wrote Designing Your Life, Designing Your Work Life. There's a lot of free resources on their website, including an energy management exercise that can be helpful in one just trying to kind of look at those pieces again. So I'll be brief because we have more to cover, but I think
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks, Carla. Appreciate it. Okay, so our final question. Question number 3 is, give us a couple of recommendations, practices, or resources that you suggest for navigating these difficult transitions, building resilience, including managing the emotional toll with career, job change, with layoffs, leadership shifts, organizational crisis. So that's question number 3. So why don't we do this? Why don't we hear from all of our coaches? So we have to be brief, because we only have a few minutes left, so maybe like concise, so 1 minute for each coach. Let's just go down the line.
So would definitely echo Designing Your Life. I have done it. I go back and I reflect on it annually, you know, like how do I want, if you guys aren't familiar, right, there's 4 different quadrants on how you might think about life, and it's your life, health, your love, or like, you know, relationships, vocation, and then play. Those are the 4 quadrants. And so I highly would recommend that. It's a great guide. I also would recommend this exercise of what would your most empowered version of yourself do as you're making decisions, because sometimes you might hesitate because, you know, limiting beliefs come up. So I use that to reframe when I'm making important decisions, and just be a little bit bold. And then finally, I really am a fan of Christy Rutherford. She has a podcast called Pay Raise Playbook, and she has a newsletter as well. But she was a leader in the military, had 3 years left before she retired with a pension, but then burnt out, and she had like 11 different like health conditions, and she was able to pick herself back up like after 3 years of recovery, and you know, she's super successful now and supporting people to not end up like her. But she has really great insights, so I would recommend her podcast and her newsletter.
Excellent. So a couple of things. One, I want to build on what I was sharing before about BDNF, the protein. One thing that I forgot to mention is what you can do actually to increase the presence of that protein in your body. And it's a lot of the things that we know are good for us. But what I think is exciting is the scientific evidence that now links that to resilience, right? So BDNF can be increased by sleep, by certain foods, and by exercise. And one of the statistics that I thought was really neat was that a 12% increase in BDNF in research had a 20% increase in a person's ability to learn new language. So the impact is actually exponential. Couple of other resource recommendations. So one, and I believe we're going to have a digital handout for you with these resources, so don't try to remember them all. Thank you, John. One of the resources that will be in there is a tool that I put together for resilient leaders, and we love alliteration, right? So this is 3 Ps. It is plan, prepare, and practice. And it really helps you kind of address navigating a situation or a transition that is difficult by thinking about what is your desired outcome, what are the possible scenarios that might arise, and how can you best prepare yourself for them and mitigate any challenges or obstacles that come in your way, and what practices will help you actually set yourself up for success as the resilient leader that you want to be. And then I'll just add a book, which I think is a really interesting book. It's called Unbound, if anyone has read that before, by Kasia Urbaniak. And it has really great practices on stepping into your power and expressing, identifying first, and then communicating and expressing what you want and what you need and how to actually go after to get it. So I think it's a really powerful book if you haven't had a chance to look at that.
Thank you both. Well, I'll just quickly start off by applauding everyone in this room for being here tonight, because this is really important. The advice I give to anyone, transition, no transition, resilient times, no resilient times, is build relationships. And so you're all here, so please make sure that, you know, in addition to all of us that are here on this panel and putting on the event, get to know some of the other folks in the room, exchange contact information. Relationship building is so important and carries you through your career. So that's just one big picture item. But then another fun book to, you know, in your spare time, if any of you have heard of Jia Zhang, I think I've mispronounced his name. He wrote a book called Becoming Rejection Proof. He has a TED Talk as well. He was on Ellen. I don't know if this is ringing a bell for some of you, a couple years back. He is all about just ask. It, you know, is so tough when you're networking, you're looking for a new job, you're going to face a lot of rejections. But he had this almost silly experiment that he put on for months, where he would make the silliest of asks to his neighbor to plant a flower in their backyard. He went to, I think it was Dunkin' Donuts, to ask them to make donuts that look like the Olympic rings, because the Olympics were going on during that time. But what he learned was, you know, the more he would ask and put himself out there, eventually he would turn those no's into yeses, or find a way for the folks he was talking to get advice on who he should talk to, if they couldn't help them, right? So there's a lot of learnings. Great book, fun videos, so something to check out in your free time.
First of all, these are really great resources. So, and I'm learning here, just kind of listening. A couple other ones then that I'll add around cognitive, the traps we can get in. I don't know if anyone has heard of Byron Katie. Technically, her name is Katie, but she goes Byron Katie. She has something called the Work, which is a set of questions that help us really take a look at what's actually true, and if we believe it, or if we won't, if we're not going to believe that, who actually might. So that's something I found useful. Because I went to Kellogg a little bit before some of you, I'll offer William Bridges, Transitions. So it's an all-time book that speaks about 3 different phases, and especially the middle one around neutral. So it still has some really great things to offer. The Stoic philosophy, which I think a couple of people have mentioned, the idea of remembering what's in our circle of control versus not, and it's pretty standard. One other one that I'll just actually two more. One simple one is the reflection, being able to step back and say, what things have I learned from the other times that I've been on this? So we do have things that we can learn from our past, as much as we also need to innovate. And then the last thing I'll throw out is something called the Cynefin framework, which is a framework for assessing complexity. And it's by a Welshman named David Snowden. And the idea basically is helping us make sense of a time when the best thing to do is to step back and learn and design and experiment versus trying to kind of figure it out. So that's the headline. So, thanks.
I like this lightning round. The two I mentioned earlier were Grit by Angela Duckworth and Mindset by Carol Dweck. There's also Think Again by Adam Grant. And that really ties into the themes of both the imposter syndrome and the armchair expert, but also like this idea of how using a growth mindset traverses you through that learning curve of going from what you don't know, all the way through conscious competence to mastery on something. So that one's a really great book. And then what that reminded me of when I heard Kick the Shit Out of Option B was that I think Adam Grant also wrote with Sheryl Sandberg kicking the shit out of option B. And then for a practice, something that I have my clients do is we do a vision exercise. And in this vision exercise, like in many, you will paint the picture that you want for your future self. If you could have anything, like sky's the limit. But as you go through this detailed picture, what you do next is you ask yourself two very important questions at the end of it. You ask yourself, what might I lose that I value if I get what I want? And then you ask yourself, how would this affect the important people in my life if I get what I want? And this is sort of looking at it from the angle of what could go wrong if I get what I want. And if you look at it from that perspective, you will see the subconscious blockers that are in your way. And then you can apply Sharon's 3 Ps: plan, prepare, and go after it. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm learning. I was like thinking those too. We know a lot, actually, right? I mean, we in this room, probably the amount of knowledge that or wisdom we have from our experiences probably is like so much. The problem is always about doing. Can you carry out and execute these things and make it happen? So I'm gonna just recommend 3 from that perspective. The first one is, in my clients, whether I coach team, startups, or the founders or the executives, something I notice over and over is that they are their worst enemy. Always they're the one who get in the way of themselves. And it's not to criticize them, but that's kind of what imposter syndrome is about too, right? So something that I really recommend is called positive intelligence. Basically in it, you know, some of you might know, and you're nodding too, that you get to understand what your inner saboteurs are and how to actually work with it, not to kill it or abandon it or get rid of it. You can't do it, none of those. But how can you actually strengthen your inner stage so that you can actually counter your saboteur? And I've seen great results with my clients for that too. So I want to really recommend that. There's a book for it and there's a course or the test you can take to, at least you can find out your saboteur profile. So I recommend that. By knowing, actually, is a huge step forward. So that's one thing. And in the resilience, I totally agree with also Carla about building the community, because some of the things that I really recommend to my clients is build your external support system. But it's not about like going to happy hour and then just like having fun with the friends. That's good. Please do that. But also get together with the like-minded people who are in the similar sort of life stages or career stage with you. You can kind of build a structure around this, such as coaching circle. So you coach each other without actual coaching in that circle. And you can set the agenda, and happy to share the resource for that too. Or you can build your own personal board of directors. So it's only for you. It's not for your business. If you're running a startup or something. So you can build a board and then invite them and they have like a quarterly meeting. I did one today actually with one of my board members. And this board member is not about my business. It's actually for me. And you get update how you're doing and also ask questions And these four will keep you honest. And this is actually kind of adding to what I told you about do not evaluate while you innovate, but you get to actually have this input. So you have a really healthy feedback loop going on. The last thing is a bit of a public announcement. Check out my book. You don't have to read the book if you don't want to. You can also subscribe to my Substack, the placeholder. So if you type in the placeholder, it will show up in Substack too. So you can subscribe and then check out what the book is about. The placeholder is about the place to go to create your noble work. And it's really about, the reason I named placeholder is because it's the in-between state or in-between period where you want to try different inputs in your placeholder so that you can find the right input. So it's a highly experimental phase. And it's all about doing actually and taking actions and experiments. So I think you get a lot of it from it too. So thank you.
And it's full of Civil War stories, right?
Yes, for you. Exactly.
Or John, you want to take us on?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have time, but I'd say about maybe 10, 15 minutes based on what folks would ask.
Okay, great. So we can take a couple questions from the audience. So any questions, any hand raisers in the audience? Yes.
Anyone
Question.
who's standing wants to take a seat. There are plenty more seats. Like
Yeah.
definitely some in the front row. If you want to be.
And here's a mic if you want, or
I'll just enunciate maybe.
okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, thank you all for your knowledge and your wisdom. Really insightful. You know, interesting to hear the different perspectives about resilient leadership. And I guess one question I have is like somebody said about building relationships. I think Carly did. How does empathy come into this? Like when we think of resilient leadership, we're thinking like my problems, my solutions. Maybe how am I going to get past this? But how does empathy come into it, and does it factor at all on who we choose to have relationships with?
Just maybe dive in with a quick thought, but pass it around. I think the hardest part is often the students I work with and others, find it awkward sometimes, especially for those that may be a little bit more introverted to make that outreach. But most people, I think, want to help each other. And so if there's a company that you're interested in or, a skill that you're looking to build and, reaching out to someone, especially if there's that common connection, is, again, it may just be that someone is not available to you. I think once you start attending events like this, it's just a great way to mingle, and then you might find common overlap and connections. But, jot down notes after conversations you have, and you might have had a conversation with someone and they're sharing more about their interests too. And then you attend a conference, a couple months later and you're thinking of them and then you follow up with them. So you can pay it forward at another point in time. So I don't know if that helps, but I'm going to pass it to.
And I actually just want to check because I have an answer, but I want to make sure I'm understanding. Were you asking about what is the role of empathy and resilience in terms of leadership? Was that right?
Yeah, like should you be focusing on empathizing with others as you go through transition? Like focusing on helping others so you can transition, or more so internally focused?
So I would say, in my view, it's a case of and. So there's understanding for yourself about what you need, but empathy helps, I think, resilience in a few ways, right? One is the social part that you heard, that by being able to be empathetic or have empathy for those around you, that'll help you build those kind of connections that will be essential, as you've heard us say, that's really important. Empathy, I think also my own observation from other leaders is when we're able to empathize with others and show it, we often feel much better. And so the places where we're caught in, this sucks for me, being able to show and communicate and be heard for others can help us also. So I think it's kind of a case of both. Now, back to you would be sort of how am I spending my time and am I able to be, as you heard others say, focused on the things that I need. But I think always taking that bigger kind of picture of which empathy is a core part, I think will help you and the others around you.
Thank you.
Can it build on that? All right.
I think this works. All right. So I think that there's a third concept connected. It's about self-empathy. A lot of times resilience gets stuck because of our really strong inner critic. And we can be really hard on ourselves and really harsh. And we would talk to ourselves in all sorts of ways that we wouldn't talk to other people. And so this concept of self-empathy has to come before, almost before, we can be good empathizers with other people. Learning to understand what we need, learning how to get our own needs met, going through that journey for ourselves with compassion for ourselves, that enables us to show up with empathy for others and then be that bridge and support and then build those relationships and then create that virtuous cycle.
Okay. There we go.
And I would just add, you have to understand what your emotional capacity is as well, right? Like, you're gonna have your self-empathy, you wanna connect with people and empathize with them and help them, but you know how much you can handle. And, you know, maybe it's not networking with everyone here today, right? If you don't have a high social battery and you don't have the capacity to take on whatever they might be going through. So you know yourself the best, you should know yourself the best, and then you can kind of think through what you can take on.
Okay. So maybe one more question from the audience, maybe one or two, depending on the question. Oh, there you go.
A few of you mentioned about the possibility of the analysis paralysis, right? Like you overthink about a transition, and we all know that may happen, but what are some tips that can help us identify the exact moment that we go from thinking to overthinking? Because it's never clear, right? When you are the person going through the transition, that this moment just arrived, you were just stepped into the overthinking situation. So what are some tips?
I have a very quick tip. Thank you.
Just a super quick tip is time boxing. So this is something that can be very helpful if you think you're going to spend a lot of time thinking about something or working on something that is going to have diminishing returns after a while. So literally set a timer. And in fact, my husband asked, or having people around you that can kind of check you as well and say, hey, you know, where are you at with that? Or are you thinking too much about this? And literally my husband checked me yesterday on this topic. He said, are you doing too much work preparing for this panel? Are you overthinking
No,
this?
of course not.
Absolutely not. It's very worthwhile. So I think both of those things, time boxing yourself and having people who can check you, are helpful strategies.
I want to build on that too. I actually had that case with my client yesterday. She was overanalyzing about where to leave for the job and for her family, etc., etc. And she could argue for both pros and cons. And what came down to was, but I knew that she knew the answer. But she's so smart. Everybody here is so smart. You can argue for both. You are almost like semi-lawyer already, right? The question that was so helpful for her was not what do you want, because we want everything. The question that was helpful for her was what is worth wanting. So you think about it, it's a very different quality of questions, right? What do you want versus what is worth wanting. I guess the equivalent of that is why does it matter? But so once that question came up, then she was able to actually make the decision. And then after that, it was all about like how to actually make the decision in terms of the processes. So I think that maybe that's a question that you can ask yourself when you're overanalyzing. What is worth wanting?
And I would also add, how does it feel in your body? Like, right? Like when you're overthinking, it's probably going to feel heavy. You're going to be confused, like tired, right? Right? All those things. So like, how does it feel in your body? And Sharon just posted on LinkedIn about action, right? And taking action. And when I was over analyzing an offer we made on a home, my husband had to tell me the same thing. He said, action precedes clarity, right? And I did feel so much better once I just did what I had to do and we submitted an offer, right? So how does it feel in your body? And making sure you're taking action, right? It's not just whiteboards and, journaling.
I had one more thing to add. Well, the first thing was use your, body. So that's amen. Something else for some of us. There is a coach once helped me to understand there is no such thing as a 100% solution. So some of us, myself being one, seek to have the full answer, and I've got to know. And the coach asked me, what if you just know 51%? Understanding that life is uncertain anyways, right? We don't know what is going to happen. So what if we just lean into that? What's enough to be able to know, understanding we're going to host the part that we can't know. And so can we go for me, not speaking for anyone else here, myself, I've learned to let that go, and some of my leaders who tend to analyze because we're used to analyzing and getting it right. But there is no one 100% right. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. So
Thank you.
yeah. So now that you've met 6 of us, I would like you to meet 3 more very special coaches who filled in to make sure that we would have as many coaching opportunities as we can. So I wanted to thank them and have them come up here so you can also see them and meet them. So I'd like to bring up Mike, Carl, and Carlos, and I'm going to have Anmol, if you will, again
More coaches for you.
introduce them. And then after that, by the way, we'll then go into our coaching, and we'll tell you more there.
And then during the networking, like 4 more will show up.
And then pretty soon, all of you will be.
All right, so we've got Carl. How you doing, Carl? Good. All right, so Karl Simmons is the founder of Clarity Plus Momentum Coaching. He's focused on helping executives build on their strengths to become the leaders they want to be. He brings a unique perspective derived from combining leadership roles held in global consulting firms advising Fortune 500 companies with years of teaching and researching at top-tier universities. There you go. As a coach, collaborator, and builder, he guides individuals and teams to identify and achieve career advancing goals. With a proven record of growing leaders and scaling teams and organizations, Carl has experienced coaching individual leaders as well as leading large programmatic organizational interventions. Then we have Carlos. Is it Carlos Pare? There we go. I got it right. Carlos is the senior leader for U.S. Medical Affairs Operations at Edwards Life Sciences in Irvine, California, one of my favorite towns. The leading global structural heart innovation company. He is known not only for identifying rockstar talent, but also coaching and developing his award-winning team. An active supporter of the BIPOC, Coach Collective, and the Gay Coaches Alliance. He leverages diverse corporate and LGBT leadership experiences. His coaching awakens peace, unity, and connection. A Northwestern volunteer since 2014, he received the Northwestern Alumni Association's Club Leader of the Year Award in 2018. Appointment to the Northwestern University Alumni Association Board began in 2020. Congrats. Yes? I got one more line. So right here on my script. All right. He and his husband Keith reside in their Long Beach forever home with their rescue poodle mix Maine.
I just want to take a moment to give an extra shout out to Carlos. He is an incredible leader. His team really looks up to him and respects him. He is really committed to growth and development and seeing his people shine. And we've had the opportunity to work together. And it's such a pleasure to see you dive into growth opportunities for the people that you work with in your organization. So I wanted to.
By the way, just in case you are not seeing what he's wearing, total.
All right, and then our next coach is Mike Trigg, who's no stranger to the SelfActualize.ai coaching event. So good to see you again. Mike, prior to becoming a career coach and entrepreneurial mentor, Mike had a 25-year career in Silicon Valley as a founder, an employee, an executive, and investor in dozens of high-tech startups. He was an early employee of Octane Software, an enterprise CRM provider acquired by Epiphany. He was the co-founder of the data analytics company Treviso, acquired by Cisco, VP of marketing at High Five, one of the world's largest social networks, and COO at cloud file sharing vendor Hightail, formerly YouSendIt, acquired by OpenText. All right, Mike is also an avid writer. So he's been a contributor to TechCrunch, Entrepreneur, VentureBeat, and Fast Company, and he's published 2 contemporary novels, FitFlip and Burner. He earned his BA from Northwestern University and MBA from UC Berkeley. And he's in final editing of his third novel. Yeah? The third one's coming out. Yeah. And I didn't know this, the editing process actually takes longer than the writing process.